The one category where we really have disagreement is for best drama actor. Chris, Rob is going for Gabriel Byrne in treatment. Is he crazy?
I think he is. I would like to hear a good explanation for Gabriel Byrne to win this category. Yes.
All right, Rob, we're putting you up on the standard. Go for it.
Have you seen the episode, though? Like, if you see this episode, it goes for like 27 minutes, and it's spotlight on Gabriel Byrne, and he's just so good. I actually teared up at the end, and I don't do that. I have a heart of stone, and I teared up at the end.
Wow.
Okay.
Why? I haven't seen the episode. What goes on there?
Okay. Well, basically, he's been sued because he allegedly did something in the previous season with Blair Underwood's character, and so he's in some kind of interview, so he's very upset, and he spends most of the episode all anguished. And then at the end, he finally decides to go to his estranged father, who is on his deathbed. He reads him the sports, and then he cries, cries out to his father. I was like, sheesh, that's fantastic. You can't possibly pass Gabriel Byrne up. But then, of course, I saw all the others and thought, oh, great, this category is a killer. So I mean, maybe I'm going out on a limb here, but Gabriel Byrne put a tear in my eye. Tear in my eye equals Emmy, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's usually true.
Yeah, he put a tear in my eye, too. I was practically falling asleep on that episode. 27 minutes of boredom right there.
Really?
Look, he's a fine actor. I've enjoyed him in movies, but this show just bores me to death. It's two people sitting there talking back and forth. I don't want to hear their problems. You know, I would
whine.
It just does. Yeah, it just does.
But even our own problems, I know.
Even saying all that, I've got him in second or third place to win.
You do.
Yeah, so it's a great performance, but
I do see where you're coming from, because if you watch who I also think might win, is coming second for me, which is Bryan Cranston, that performance knocked me out. Like the end scene, I don't want to spoil it for people if you haven't seen it, but
don't spoil it. We need to talk about because the end scene is the clincher. Yes.
That end scene is a killer. Whoever picked Phoenix, the episode for Bryan, good job, because that scene where he's standing over the girlfriend of Jesse who is choking and spluttering on her own vomit, and then she dies and he just lets her die, like, wow. My wife and I were just like, we couldn't believe it.
And let's explain, he lets her die because she's threatening to expose him of his big secret.
Right.
And he... Yeah. By letting her die, that gets rid of his... It's like a Sopranos moment, isn't it, Chris? It's got that delicious, vicious, but honest selfishness about it.
Well, Tom, in all these years, you talk about, especially on the drama side, whether it's movies or TV, a performer having that impact moment. And in this one episode, Bryan Cranston has 4 impact moments. It's amazing what all he gets to do in this episode. Not only does he have that ending, but he's got the scene where he's late to his own daughter's birth at the very beginning of the episode. He's got the scene with him and Aaron Paul having it out in the school lab over Aaron Paul continuing to do drugs. He's got the scene where he's showing his new daughter all the money he's storing up for her, and he can't tell anybody else, but since she's 2 days old, he could show it to her. He has a lot of big impact scenes in this episode.
Now, who of these two is more empathetic, though? Rob, let's go to your point, though, because it sounds like Gabriel, which I haven't seen the Gabriel Byrne thing, but we know that empathy plays a big role here. It's all about the hug. All right, so Bryan Cranston doesn't have that going for him. This guy is making drugs to hook people. He's letting a woman die who needs help because she's an addict. He has a lot of empathetic moments, like with his daughter, showing her the money, and he's doing all this, of course, for her sake, for the family. He's dying of cancer. He wants to leave a legacy. So there is some empathy there, but if it's decided on empathy, which is one of the 3 factors we know that count, there is impact, emotional range, and empathy. Maybe Gabriel Byrne has more, right? Of those 3 factors?
Definitely. Empathy is huge. And by the end of that in-treatment episode, you really do feel for Gabriel Byrne. He doesn't even have to say much. You just know where he's coming from. I mean, a lot of people have daddy issues, right? A lot of people can relate to that, and you do feel for him. But I must say, you also feel for Bryan Cranston. This is very difficult because a lot of the voters are also going to be dads themselves or mothers, and that moment in the garage or wherever he is with his little daughter, having that moment with this little baby was really touching. That also brought a tear to my eye. So, I mean, there's just tears everywhere. It was just a cry fest. So, really, even though he's a drug dealer and that end scene really knocked me out, I still think about the scene with his baby. So it goes both ways. It's going to go either way. It just depends. Voters may not want to vote in treatment. It's not as cool as Breaking Bad. So I'm wavering. And if I'm wavering, it means that it's a toss-up.
But Chris,
we know who's not going to win. We probably know
Tom, don't rule out Hugh Laurie here either. Don't rule out Hugh Laurie. This is the 5th season for the show. Kiefer Sutherland went on his 5th season, so it's been done recently. The most of the episode is a pretty standard, I thought, pretty standard type episode. But that last 10 minutes or so, where he's going through pain addiction withdrawals there in his home, he's got help from Lisa Edelstein. He's laying on the floor reaching for pills. I mean, it's some pretty good stuff, and as well as anybody that drug addiction kind of episodes and movie roles can win awards.
Yes, but he had a drug addiction episode a few years ago that was fantastic, and it was the whole episode. It was everybody trying to get him off his painkillers, and he was struggling with it throughout the whole hour, not just the last 10 minutes, and he didn't win then. Now, I can't remember. It was probably because he was up against a very powerful alternative performance that won. I can't remember what year it was.
It was James Spader.
Yeah, maybe it was. Yes, but because he of course it was. Spader always won in those days. But
he wins all the time.
Yeah. But in other words, I think we've seen that before. I could see it happening because he's overdue. And the one thing, as you wisely warn us, and that is don't write off a contender just because they've lost many times before. Like Steve Carell, he's lost 4 times, right? He could actually come through this time. We have a lot of those overdue contenders this year in the acting slots.
Well, and I would I totally agree with that. And you can't necessarily write somebody off just because they've been losing. There are other factors every single year going on, and you never know why somebody, Hugh Laurie may have finished second that year, and save for that one James Spader performance, he might have already had an Emmy. So you just never know. I mean, Ted Danson, did he go up like 8 times in a row before he won for Cheers? So you never know on those kind of things. It takes just that right episode, just that right moment. But I would say that it's probably Bryan Cranston's year again.
You would think so. And if Hugh Laurie's going to win, it's not going to be because of his episode, which I almost turned off. Thankfully I didn't, then I got to see the last 10 minutes because the first part was so boring. But if he wins, it'll be because one of the biggest complaints in Emmy land is, why hasn't Hugh Laurie won an Emmy? And so if that's a complaint, then maybe they just want to finally address that so that we can all move on. And that would be the main reason. But the other 3 guys, I don't think you've got to hope.
Yes, Simon Baker isn't very expressive emotionally in his episode, although he submitted the pilot. He does have these backstory issues of him dealing with... He's pretty good in it, but it's not a grandstanding performance like these others. John Hamm never gets anything to do emotionally in his submissions, does he? It's always some quiet little moment he has, but he doesn't get to showboat. And who else do we have here? Michael C. Hall. I haven't seen his episode. Is it any good?
I don't think so.
No.
Why? What's wrong with Michael C. Hall's episode?
It just doesn't do anything.
Nothing happened. I mean, some things happened, but it was so underplayed. There was and his character doesn't have much emotion either most of the time. That's why he's so good at what he does. He's very, very, very controlled. It's going to take for John Hamm or Michael C. Hall, one of these guys, to win somewhere down the road. They're going to have to get one of those episodes that's totally out of character for them, I think, to win.
Yeah, they need to cry a lot.
They need to cry a lot, and we need to remind viewers of this video how Emmy voting works. There are only between 50 and 70 judges picking a winner here, and they're doing it based on the sample episode. Now, they do take in other factors when they vote, but they are hugely influenced by the submissions made by these nominees. Thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm.